Hello. Welcome to Bring Your Product Idea to Life. Today I'm speaking with Sam Feller from Popcorn Shed. So, Sam runs a gourmet popcorn business that exists to bring happiness to their customers through the shared love of popcorn. So, Sam's business sells a range of popcorn. So, from everyday popcorn treats to gifting popcorn to high quality premium popcorn. There's a big range, and we talk about that a lot in this episode. So Sam shares why and how he set up this business with his cousin, the challenges of running a family business, growing, building a team, expanding into different sales channels. We cover an awful lot. There's a lot to learn on this episode, particularly if you're interested in the food or the gifting sector. I think there's going to be so much you can learn from Sam. And even if you're just in the stages of running any kind of product listing, business, I think there's something for you here. So I would love now to introduce you to Sam. So hi Sam, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Vicky. Great to be here.
So can we please start with you giving an introduction to yourself, your business and what you sell?
Yeah, sure. My name is Sam Feller. My business is called Popcorn Shed. I am a co-founder of that business, and we sell popcorn and popcorn-related snacks, gifts, and treats to UK consumers, UK wholesale customers, and a fair amount of export customers as well.
Amazing, thank you. So let's start off with tell us what makes Popcorn Shed different from other popcorn brands out there.
Yeah, sure. So we are a super premium gourmet popcorn brand. So most of the popcorn that your audience will probably be familiar with is sort of supermarket based popcorn, which is typically in really, mainstream flavors like sea salt, sweet and salty and sweet. They might have had popcorn at the cinema, and that's the kind of sort of flavors palette that they're used to. We do super premium popcorn. So we take popcorn and we kind of reinvent it for the modern world. And we add all different types of flavors. So we have like salty caramel popcorn, chocolate popcorn, cheese popcorn, toffee apple popcorn, cinnamon toast popcorn, all different types of flavors that you could think of to add to your popcorn. That's what we do. So we say we reinvent popcorn. And by doing that, we're bringing joy to our customers through the shared love of popcorn. Popcorn is one of those snacks that really brings people together. So we absolutely love the fact that we're having that option, that ability to kind of bring people together with our product range.
Definitely. I think popcorn's actually probably the ultimate sharing snack, isn't it? You know, like if you're watching a film at home or you've got friends around, like popcorn is just the thing to have, isn't it?
It is. People associate it obviously with cinemas. I mean, that association goes right back to the early 1900s with the advent of the cinema in the US. But as you know, things have evolved. Certainly, popcorn and movies or TV now, are synonymous. So whether that's a at-home movie night with family and friends, whether you're going to the cinema, or whether you're maybe just at any kind of social gathering at home or with friends, popcorn is that ultimate kind of snack that brings people together. So yeah, I love that about the category.
And it's so exciting that you're doing something different with it as well. So I know that you and your cousin founded Popcorn Shed together. So how did that original conversation start? What sparked the idea? And then at what point did that go from, oh, this is a fun idea to actually, this could be a business?
Yeah, I mean, we were both working in professional services jobs in London at the time. I'm going back over 10 years ago now, so it was a little while ago. We were in a different place in our lives, but we both wanted to do something that we were much more passionate about. I think we were both kind of in separate careers and we weren't that passionate about going into work every day, getting up and doing the 9 to 5. And building a brand was something that my cousin Laura, who's my co-founder, really wanted to do. And I really wanted to build my own business. I think I'd seen my parents be entrepreneurs and start their own business. And I really kind of wanted my own little thing. I'd always had kind of side gigs through my 20s and through my uni days, separate to my main job. I kind of wanted my side gigs to become my main gig in time or, start a business. So yeah, we came together through a sort of shared passion for food. We've grown up together. We're a very similar age, my cousin and I, and we've always been around food at big family events, whether that be, big dinners or, family movie nights. Our families were very close as we grew up. So, we just wanted to do something that was much more passion led and that we would get a lot more joy out of ourselves in terms of our day-to-day business lives. So yeah, my cousin wanted to start a brand, I wanted to start a business, and we came together. We looked at a few different categories. Popcorn at the time was really trending. It was in double-digit growth in terms of the crisps, snacks, and nuts category. And so we thought there was an opportunity to have a sort of super premium popcorn brand. And we had also, the year prior, I had gone to the States on holiday and seen just the amount of popcorn that was on the shelves in the US, obviously the US being the home of popcorn. Just thought there might be an opportunity to introduce some of those flavors and some of those pack formats to the domestic market here in the UK.
Well, that's really exciting. And how easy is it to start up a popcorn brand? Do you need specialist equipment? Because I know that you manufacture your own products. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, like with all new businesses, you don't know what you don't know. And
Yeah.
there was definitely a significant period of time, probably about 18 months, a bit longer than perhaps we'd have liked, where we were just learning the trade. So we were making popcorn at home in a domestic kitchen, learning how to pop the popcorn, learning how to make it taste really good, learning how not to burn it, and learning how to make a caramel coating, which is what we coat a lot of our flavors in today, and how to flavor that caramel and create a nice even coating across all the popcorn, how to cool the popcorn, keep it crunchy and fresh, all sorts of things which, as you're going into the industry and you have really no idea about this kind of thing, it was a big learning curve. I think I've always had a passion for baking. I used to bake with my mum when we were growing up. So I kind of had a basic idea of how to make a caramel and things like that. But actually producing the product did take us a little while to kind of, I guess, perfect in terms of that domestic kitchen. And then when we had our three starter recipes, we started with salted caramel, pop and chop, and a pecan pie recipe for popcorn. We then had to find a manufacturer or co-packer to go produce it for us. And that was a whole separate process within itself. So we still sort of started in the domestic kitchen, but pretty quickly realized that we were going to outgrow that and we needed some help on the manufacturing side.
But how great though to start that way, because I think it really makes a difference that you've got all this hands-on experience, that you know what makes good popcorn, I think having that experience is really, really good. And I think that you've probably learnt more from that process than had you just straight away gone and found someone to make it.
For sure, for sure. I mean, getting up close and personal with the product is something that we still do today. If you're going to put your own brand name on it and ultimately going to go out to the market and sell it, there's nothing that beats being, so close to the product and so passionate about the product because you've been, you've had a real hand and been involved in actually producing that product, perfecting those recipes, making it taste as good as it possibly can, making that texture as fresh and crunchy as it possibly could be. So for sure, there's nothing that can beat that.
And I've seen you speak about still developing and testing recipes in your own kitchen. So why has staying so hands-on with the product remained a non-negotiable for you as the business has grown?
Um, Look, ultimately, we are we're a small family business, and we are selling products that we are passionate about and that fit our consumer profile, and we are largely self-funded. So for me, having that sort of you retaining that element of control in terms of product development is really key because we all know that product development is really expensive. It's prone to mistakes. There's so many areas of product development that you could fall down on. It might be the taste, it might be the packaging, it might be the price, it might be the proposition, it might be the market. You might get your flavor profiles wrong, for example, or you might miss a trend. So all sorts of reasons why doing product development in house is so important to us. That's not to say that we don't work with partners. Of course we work with partners if we really want to achieve a certain taste profile that we can't quite achieve on our own. Yes, we'll bring in partners, we'll bring in subcontractors, third parties to help us inform that product development process and improve it. But ultimately, it's so expensive. If you get it wrong, it's so expensive when you release a product. and it flops, you might have invested thousands of pounds in the packaging design. You might have had to buy in large minimum order quantities, tens of thousands of pounds in some cases of, finished stock, which if it doesn't quite resonate with your customers, you're going to have to ultimately sell at a massive discount or dispose of. And so, because we're commercially minded, because we're running the business for profit, because it's our business and we're still a small family business, product development is so key to that whole process that for us, it's a non-negotiable. It has to be in-house. It couldn't be any other way.
That makes a lot of sense. So, what process do you go through to decide whether a product's good enough to put your brand name on and start selling at scale? So obviously you're starting off testing and developing yourself. What's the process from there?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, obviously, we're called Popcorn Shed. We've built the brand name around Popcorn Shed. So we start with a proposition of popcorn, and our mission is to be the number one choice of gourmet popcorn, or for gourmet popcorn, I should say, within our markets. So the product always starts with popcorn. But when we started with three flavors of ready to eat gourmet popcorn. And we've really grown the business organically through product development from that starting point. So we start with gourmet popcorn ready to eat. We very much still center around that proposition, and that is still our core. But we've grown our ranges out through a combination of organic product development, also customer feedback. Maybe a certain pack size is too big, and they want a lower price point. So in some cases, we've made it, stripped away some of the packaging, made it smaller. In the case of our snack pack range, we've also had a popcorn range which is ready, which is perfect for everyday use, rather than our gourmet popcorn, which might be more of an occasional snack because it's more high calorie. But we've also then really looked into all areas of the popcorn category and associated categories. So one of our most recent successes, for example, is make at home kits and also popcorn seasonings, where customers are actually popping the popcorn at home and then pouring our seasonings over the top of freshly oil popped popcorn. And that's great because it allows customers to really enjoy the freshness of, let's say, cinema popped popcorn in the comfort of their own home whilst they're having a TV movie night, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, the proposition starts with popcorn, and then we've very much developed flavors and products around that proposition, and asked our customers, for feedback, and worked in some cases to specific price points, particularly on the wholesale side.
That makes a lot of sense. And do you get a lot of input from customers if you ask them what do you think about a certain flavour or a certain idea?
Um, Some customers, yes, some customers, no. I mean, we do sell into lots of different sales channels, and some customers, the price point's really the most important thing. For other customers, the design and the color of the product is more important. For other customers, it's all about the taste profile. For other customers, it's more about, the texture, the crunchiness, the freshness of the popcorn. It really is a massive kind of mix. So there's definitely no one size fits all. I think, as far as we're concerned, if we know that we've done our absolute best in executing a product when we're actually bringing it to market, then happy days. I think we kind of sleep well at night knowing that we did our best, kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'll come back to talking about channels a bit later, but I would love to know, have there ever been flavours or ideas that you personally loved but haven't made it to launch?
Yes, quite a few. Um, yeah, I mean, there gets to a point where, with our flavor portfolio in particular, I mean, we have over 30 gourmet popcorn flavors on the market. There does get a kind of tipping point where, you release a new flavor and it doesn't really have an incremental effect on growth, revenue, sales, anything like that. So there's definitely been some hard decisions, not early on, because early on we were growing the range, and the most important thing was to have a range that would be competitive against some of our competitor ranges, and other brands' ranges. But now we've kind of got to a point where we've grown the range, and um, you know, if we release a new flavor or five new flavors, it will probably just dilute sales of other flavors in the current range rather than actually adding anything incrementally. So we have, had to say no to a couple of flavors. I mean, everyone knows the last couple of years, there's been a massive trend, for example, with this Dubai chocolate, which is actually chocolate and
Yeah.
pistachio. So we did develop a Dubai chocolate popcorn, tasted great, and thought about launching it. But, for various reasons, I think the trends kind of get come and gone. Seen a lot of markdown stock on that side. Lots of brands have jumped onto it, some with kind of mixed successes. And also the price point of these products, pistachio and dark chocolate, two of the most expensive inclusions you can possibly think of with popcorn. Um, Price point just doesn't always work because the margin then it gets impacted. So, yeah, for example, Dubai chocolate popcorn is a flavor that's been on our list for a while, and I can say at the moment, unfortunately, it's not something we're bringing out, but it may come back at some point in the future.
That makes sense. It sounds like there were a lot of hard decisions to make, actually, but it sounds like you're doing a really good job of taking aside your personal preferences and tastes to what's commercially viable. And that's something that's actually more difficult, I think, than it sounds, isn't it?
Definitely, definitely. I know my co-founder really loved our blue cheese popcorn as well. We used to have a blue cheese flavor. She's very much into cheese and Marmite and all those lovely savory flavors. And we had that flavor within our portfolio actually for about 3 or 4 years, but we did decide to discontinue it a couple of years ago just because the sales weren't quite there on it. So yeah, you do have to make some really difficult decisions, but most of it is based on data, customer feedback, commercials,
Yeah.
and our experience of trading.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, talking of your co founder, so obviously working with family must be a great thing. I think family businesses are amazing, but there must also be some complications. Have you learned anything about working with family, particularly as your business has grown?
Yeah. When we started out, Laura and I definitely both did everything. We were figuring out the business, figuring out what our brand mission, company mission was, but also figuring out our strengths and weaknesses as individuals. And definitely for the first year or two, we were both doing everything. But I would say pretty soon, maybe within a year, it became quite clear what our strengths were. And as we've grown the business, we really leaned into those. So my strength is much more on the sort of commercial, operational, pricing side of the business, more of the back end functions, supply chain, procurement. I'm all over that. And she's always been far more on the pulse in terms of wholesale sales, in terms of marketing, in terms of getting all that lovely brand stuff. She's been great at that. So that's how we've kind of split the business as we've grown. So she's very much, her formal title is director of sales. You could say director of marketing and sales. And my formal title is commercial director, but you could say commercial and operational director for me. There is a bit of crossover, obviously. If it's a very big account, sometimes I step in, and if there's a massive operational or production issue, she then comes in and supports me. But very much day to day, we try and split the roles and lean into our strengths as individuals. That's how we've managed to grow the business.
That makes a lot of sense. And as you've grown, has your role changed? As in, are there things that you've consciously decided to stay involved in? And are there things where you've thought, actually, I'm going to have to let go of that or delegate that?
Of course, yeah. I mean, we've grown the business. We're now 10 people um, as our staff roster. And so our roles have very much changed and evolved as the business has changed and evolved. I stepped away from day to day accounts only 18 months ago when we brought in, for example, an accounts administrator to assist me with the day to day running of the finances. Um, Earlier on than that, I brought in an operations executive, who's now our operations manager, who, helps look after the wholesale sales order book, make sure that orders go out on time, that they're picked and packed properly, that issues are followed up with, etc. Um, you forget that in the consumer products business, of course, it is ops, ops, ops. It's, so much of it is operational. You've got to have product to actually sell, and the product's got to be there. The right amount of product's got to be there at the right time of year, etc. So, operationally, it's definitely a challenge. But yeah, I mean, yeah, we've brought in people as we've grown, and I'd say the same about Laura. She has a team of salespeople under her to support her in her role, and obviously she deals with the larger clients, and then the smaller ones go to other individuals within the team. So yeah, our roles have evolved, and we've had to relinquish various responsibilities as we've grown. I would say we continue to focus as individuals on the things that are really important for the business. So in my case, making sure we've got stock in the right place at the right time. In Laura's case, dealing with those larger clients that we really rely on to to fund our growth and to drive revenue. And obviously retaining those clients is huge for us.
Thank you, because I know a lot of my audience are at a stage where they might be thinking about scaling and bringing on team members. How have you find the process of knowing when's the right time to hire and what kind of role to bring in? Is that something that's happened organically, or is that something that's been planned for, or a bit of both?
I think our general philosophy is hire as a last resort. So when we get to capacity, when we are working at capacity and we don't have any more time in the day and we know that tasks need to be done and they're not getting done, I think at that point it's pretty obvious that someone needs to be brought on to free up our time to do other things or to drive the growth of the business forward. Definitely a difficult decision, obviously, because the cost of uh, you know employing people and salaries and so on is obviously relatively high for a small business. So every new person we bring on obviously adds to our overhead. But you do get to a point where you sort of say to yourself, well, we can't grow unless we bring someone on. Things just aren't going to get done. If we want to release 20 products, we're only going to be able to release 5 of them this year if we don't bring someone on, for example, to alleviate our responsibilities on our time. And therefore, yeah, you just get to a point where it's pretty obvious that we need to hire. So yeah, hire as a last resort, I would say. Just when you've got no more capacity left, then it's time to bring someone on to help out.
Thank you. Now, you mentioned earlier that you said across a wide range of channels. So I know you said into retail, travel, hospitality. Please jump in if I've missed any. So, how are you deciding which channels prioritize without stretching yourself and your team and the brand too thin? Because I'm sure it's grown over the last 10 years as well. But how have you prioritized that growth? I guess is what I'm asking, because you're selling a lot of different channels at the moment.
Yeah, I think definitely in the early days, we just attacked every single channel. Popcorn's actually a quite unique product in that sense. It's actually, if you think about popcorn, it's a really versatile product. It can be sweet, it can be savory, it can be low calorie, it can be really indulgent. It could be an everyday snack, it could be a Christmas gift once a year. So for that reason, the versatility of the product actually lends itself to a versatility in sales channels as well. Okay. If you take another product within our overall category, which is crisps, snacks, and nuts, let's take, for example, crisps as a very good example, which makes up the bulk of our category. That is generally a lunchtime snack. It might be, something you have with at home social gathering, similar to popcorn, but not quite doesn't quite hit the money in the same way. Most of the time, it's an everyday snack. Most of the time, it's a relatively high calorie, although there are some low calorie variants as well. It's generally in a bag. It's not really gifty. It's generally savory, not really, you don't really get sweet chili, maybe, but the exception there in terms of crisps. But actually, popcorn's really versatile. So because it's such a versatile product, we're obviously able to do lots with it. And from a product development perspective, we have every day. We have low calorie, we have indulgent, we have sweet, we have savory, we have spicy, we have novelty, we have gifty, etc. So for those reasons, our product range really lends itself to lots of different channels. And what we've found as we've grown is that certain products lend themselves much better to certain channels than others. And it's about finding that product market fit within that channel. So, for example, our popcorn seasonings range, which we relaunched, 18 months ago, is a great online product. Why is it a great online product? Because it's something that people are searching for, but it's really difficult to find in shops. Why is it difficult to find in shops? Because it doesn't easily sit within any single category, and the category alone is not really big enough to sit within condiments within, say, a supermarket. So what we found is, yeah, different channel strategies for different products, and then as you trade and grow through, trade, and then the business grows as we trade. You also then work out which customers are actually reordering. So in the case of online sales, well, where are our sales coming in every year? Is it the same month? Are they building month on month? And in the case of wholesale sales, are those customers ordering every month because it's selling through at their establishment, or are they ordering once a year? For example, a hamper company, obviously big Christmas business, they're going to be placing orders all in the run up to Christmas, but then in the early part of the year, obviously there's no business, but that's fine. It's just getting those cycles right. So it's really about establishing which channels work for which products, and then which ones lead to recurring revenue within which product ranges. So it's product market fit within specific sales channels, and then driving that recurring revenue. For us, the one-off orders on the wholesale side, it's not really where we want to be. Obviously, what we really want is the wholesale customer buys it, i.e. the shop buys it, it sells through on shelf, and then they come back for more. Obviously, that's what most brands want. You don't really want to sell product and then they don't sell it, and then you've got a problem and they've got a problem, and that's not really what we want. That's not the business we want to be in.
That makes sense. And as you were talking, I was thinking, gosh, I hadn't actually thought about how versatile popcorn was, how many categories it sits across. And now, when you were talking earlier about the operation side of your business, I can see why that is such a big part of the business, because you have different product types. I mean, they're unedible popcorn that fit in different categories and different channels. That is a really complex operation.
Yeah, and you've got different supply chains that support different product ranges as well. So we don't just work with one co-packer or third-party manufacturer. We have several now. We've actually never, apart from those very first early months where we were making popcorn at home, we've never manufactured our own products. We're not manufacturers. We are brand owners. We're product developers. We're salespeople. We're marketeers. But we've never really been involved with the manufacturing of the business. Even the warehousing and picking and packing and dispatching of orders, even that area is subcontracted, although of course we feed that machine and we manage that relationship. So yeah, it's enabled us, our model has really enabled us to focus down into how do we sell, who are we selling to, how do we market these products, how do we execute well, how do we bring products to market that we know are going to resonate with our consumers. Those areas are really important to the business.
That makes a lot of sense. And did channels drive some of the product development, or was it the other way around? The reason I ask, because I mean, I've obviously seen you've got a great gifting range. Before Christmas, I could see it in a lot of stores. You've got this, really lovely boxed options. Was that driven by getting into the gifting sector, or was it the other way round? The idea of
We actually
creating.
we actually started with our sheds range, which is our bag in box of flagships of signature range. I've actually got a little sample here. If anyone's
Oh
on
yes.
video, that you can see this is our salted caramel shed. This was one of our first products that we brought to market. Salted caramel popcorn with milk chocolate, with a great taste badge there. Um, so we started very much with that bag in box. It was very innovative at the time, 10 years ago. No one had really done popcorn in a box in the UK. As simple as that sounds, that's actually really innovative for the sector. And therefore, it opened up the gifting market because, you put a snack in a box here. Obviously, it's a gifting product. But then as you grow your relationships within that sector and you start trading with some of our partners within the gifting space, they start asking you for various things. So, do you have a vegan product? Because actually, we're gifting to all our employees, and some of them are vegan. We want everyone to be able to enjoy the popcorn. Ah, okay. Well, let's go and produce a popcorn to a vegan recipe so as everyone can enjoy it. And then they came to us early on and said, "Oh, do you have a Christmas product, specifically a Christmas flavor?" Oh, no, we don't. We've only got, three flavors. And then we go off and we made a Christmas pudding popcorn, a gingerbread popcorn specifically for Christmas, because in some cases people are looking for something really Christmassy at that time of year. Same with we have a couple of flavors for Easter, for example, and for Halloween. So some of those flavors and that product development has really come about as a result of feedback from our wholesale customers saying, we're really looking for this kind of snack or this kind of product. Do you have something that would work? Obviously, we get requests relatively frequently for bespoke flavors and bespoke product development. And we have to really analyze each request that comes into the business because it depends on volume and the size of the customer, unfortunately, we're unable to make a very small batch of popcorn for a very small type of company client, for example. But then if the volumes start to go up and some of them are really high, of course, then it opens up lots of possibilities. As we've grown, certainly our product development process has had to be streamlined because of that.
That's really exciting. And it's great that you have that relationship as well, where people will come to you with ideas and requests. That's nice and collaborative. That's really good.
Yeah, definitely. That's how we like it.
So I'd love to know, for anyone building a premium food or gifting brand right now, is there something you feel they should be perhaps paying attention to?
Um, I definitely think I've said it already in the interview, but product market fit is really key. I do see quite a lot of brands, particularly within food and drink, where they are bringing products to market, maybe as a result of a personal passion, and not necessarily having product market fit within the UK customer profile. So a good example of that is I've seen. I mean, I'm sure that there are brands that make it work, but I have seen, for example, a cricket flour energy bar. Now that product is tasted great. I actually tried it. They were exhibiting next to us at a trade show once upon a time. But unfortunately, a lot of UK consumers don't really want to be eating insects. A lot of them are actually, you know, they'll pull a face if if it's presented to them that this product has insects in it. And even though those products have amazing environmental credentials, they're high in protein, they're really good for the environment, they're all natural, they tick a lot of boxes. But ultimately, if consumers aren't going to buy it, that's really difficult to make a business out of. You're just on an uphill battle to start with. I would say in general, I'm much more of the opinion that you jump into an existing category and just better what's out there than trying to create a brand new category. Obviously, there's examples of brands that have got there in the right place at the right time in the new product category and they've made a huge success of it. But in my experience, it's more of a needle in the haystack. Obviously, I've built a business in a very busy category, established category that's been around over 100 years, and we've just bettered what's out there. Popcorn existed before we came along. We've just done our take on it, and we've been slightly more innovative within the category, and we've obviously come up with flavor combinations that no other brand has come up with, and we've executed well on it. I think that's a much easier way to grow a business than to kind of come up with a weird or wacky idea that most UK consumers actually aren't familiar with. Because you've got the education piece as well. And the education piece on top of all the ops and the commercials and the sales and everything else, you're just making life harder for yourself. So I'm generally of the opinion, yeah, uh, go into a category where it's established, people kind of know what the product is, people aren't going to turn their nose up at it at the very thought of it, but just try and better what's out there, make it look amazing, make it taste great, and try and go into a category which doesn't have too much competition. Otherwise you just make it that much harder for yourself. So yeah, that would be my advice to someone starting out.
That's really good advice, thank you, because I think you're right. I do sometimes work with brands that are selling something completely unique, and often they're brilliant ideas, but there's just that additional hurdle to cross when you have to actually explain to somebody what it actually is. Yeah, I think it makes it a lot harder than this is something you've heard of, but it's just a variation on it.
It's
Definitely.
hard. I think it's all about products. I know people tout how important credentials are, how important the team is. But in our industry, it is so much about product and timing as well. If you execute well on the actual product and there's a bit of a market for it, you'll probably succeed. So yeah.
Thank you. And so another question I think would be really useful to anyone just starting, Sam, is if you were starting Popcorn Shed again today with everything you know, so with the benefit of hindsight, is there anything you would do differently in the first 12 months?
Um, yeah, I mean, I'll classify the first 12 months as by the time we actually brought the product to market. So
Yeah.
this is the point where we found our co-packer, we've done our branding, we've done our packaging, we've got our first batch of stock ready to sell, and we're going out to market. I think we were too slow to build out our product range. It actually took us about 3 years to extend our flavors from 3 to 7, which sounds like a very slow timeline now that I'm sort of 10 years in. But against our competitor set, we had competitors that were doing 50, 60, 70 flavors already. And we were a new brand coming in and we're like, come buy our popcorn with 3 flavors. We just didn't have the portfolio, the product portfolio to really go after that market in the early stages. People would kind of look at the brand and we were, we came across as the kind of, it was pretty clear that we came across as the newbies. And I think in hindsight, we should have probably released with 10 flavors to start with, or maybe start with 3. And then within 6 months, you've already tripled your product range kind of thing. I think just for the category proposition that we had, the product proposition, and because of our competitors, I think that definitely limited our growth in the first kind of, couple of years.
Thank you. And this is why hindsight is a wonderful thing. I've never spoken to anybody who hasn't got at least one thing they would do differently given the time again. Because as you said right at the beginning, when you start your brand, you don't know what you don't know. It's all
Yeah.
learning. Well, thank you so much for everything you shared, Sam. I have one final question, if that's okay. And this is the question I ask everybody. What would your number one piece of advice be for other product creators?
I think do your research. Don't just go on what you're passionate about. I think a lot of people, obviously, passion's huge because you get that pull factor, that's drawing you in to actually start the business, um, you know, s- develop the product, bring it to market. That's really important, but also do your research, speak to people in your industry, try to speak to people that are maybe in a similar kind of category or a product niche, really find out how they've grown their business and which sales channels are working for them, where they've had successes, where they haven't had successes, where they've made some mistakes along the way, because it will save you a huge amount of time and it will just speak to as many people as you can. I appreciate it's not always, they're not always accessible and people have limited networks, but just reach out to people, send people emails, DMs on LinkedIn, etc., and try to get in front of people and really have a chat with them. Most successful founders, a lot of them are really happy to help because they've been there, they've lived that pain, they've started the business however long ago, and they are happy to help new entrepreneurs kind of find their way as well. So, yeah, my advice is just speak to people that are doing it or have done something similar and try to learn from them as much as you can before you go and spend the money, quit the job, launch the product, etc. Yeah.
Well, that's brilliant advice, Sam. Thank you so much. And thank you for everything you've shared. Thank you for your time. I'm going to link to everywhere people can find you, everywhere people can buy your popcorn in the show notes for this episode. And again, thank you.
Thanks, Vicky. Thanks for having me.